Hello and welcome to the Full Duel podcast for NFL Week 11. I am James Gale. You can follow me on Twitter at GoJPG.
And I am Ivan Lovegren. I am at Watch the Breaks on Twitter, and we apologize that the feed is all audio today, but that means that we're going to talk extra fast, extra exciting, really hyped up. You're going to get all the frogs in our throats and everything. You're going to hear it all here on the Full Duel podcast.
It's exciting. We've got Thanksgiving games this week. I'm really excited to play in that 3-game, 6-team slate on Thursday. Yeah. So we're going to cover all of those games, and we'll talk about Sunday and Monday of Week 12 as well.
Yeah, so we got 14 games total that we're discussing this week?
It's a lot, so we got to get right to it. Our head-to-heads are still live and active.
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday just because we got the holidays coming up. We know you do too, and James does such an awesome job editing out the segments. I know a lot of you looked at our individual game segments this last week. So we're just going to skip head-to-head, but we do have a league. We have a league that's still going on.
Yes.
James, you're second place in DraftKings. I am 7th place, but you have 0 PMR, and I've got 120.
Oh, on FanDuel?
No, on DraftKings.
Let me go look at it right now.
Yeah. There's also a few guys ahead of me that still have some PMR too, so it'll be interesting. And if you want to join our league, first off, follow us on Twitter at FoolDuel, and we will have links to our league out there. I think we've already got 9 people signed up for the Turkey Challenge $1 league coming up. It's going to be a full slate Thursday through Monday. But yeah, follow us on Twitter at FoolDuel so that you can get all the details on that, and we will be, or at least I'll give my lineup publicly at the end of this. James has some qualms about that, even though I don't even know if all 15 of the players listen to the Full Duel podcast. They're just friends of ours.
Wow, such low scores this week. I'm in second place with 95 points. You've got plenty of PMR left. You've got a wide receiver and a tight end. Who is it? Gronk and Amendola. So, yeah.
You know what's surprising, too? Out of those 15 guys, I think it was 53% ownership on David Carr.
Yeah, Derek Carr.
Carr?
7.56 points. It's terrible. David is his brother. He played for the Texans. Remember that? I think was he a number 1 pick?
He was number 1 pick, yeah.
Yeah.
I had such high hopes. He was the number 1 pick of the Texans franchise.
That's right.
So,
and he might have had 1 or 2 good games, and that's it.
Yeah. But he actually retired, not early, but semi-early, like he didn't try and get it with a team later, literally to shepherd Derek.
Good. And avoid those concussions.
Yeah. So we do have a quick strategy point, or at least I have a quick strategy point.
Go with it.
James, do you have one? You have one coming up, waiting in the wings too?
Don't push it. If you continuously keep losing, don't think that today is your day and you're due. You're only as good as your ability on that day. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're playing without an algorithm or without a lineup optimizer, if you're choosing lineups yourself. Don't think because you lost the last 3 days that you got to go hard on day 4.
Yeah.
Or the last 3 weeks if you're playing NFL, whatever it is.
But that also, there's a term for it. I saw it briefly. It's like Telsers or something. It's an abbreviation. I didn't get a chance to look it up because I was super busy this weekend between game casting all the games, tweeting, and actually doing work outside of this. But along that same line, the way to improve your game, especially if you're finding that you're falling behind like that, is to stay up to the minute on your player updates.
Yes.
It was about an hour before the late slate of games, and I did horrible on the early slate because of some horrific injuries. You know, we saw Forsett go out. We saw Devonta Freeman go out. In the late slate, we saw Charcandrick West go out. So just a ton of horrible injuries that you just can't predict that. Ahmad Bradshaw got the work that we predicted Frank Gore would get. It happened. Tevin Coleman tried to get the work, but he kept fumbling it away that Devonta Freeman would have gotten. So you can't always predict those things, but an hour before the late slate, we saw Marshawn Lynch was out, and T. Rawls, I know it's Thomas Rawls, but it's so much more fun to call him T. Rawls. Rawls, the truth, was getting the start in Seattle. So I entered a couple of late slate tournaments with him, and I was shocked to find that he was 15% ownership. And that seems
wild.
maybe like a high number. But
that's low, I think.
Yeah, well, it's low for it's high if it's an 8 game slate.
Yeah.
For a 3 game slate where you've got pretty much 4 starting running backs, you can expect, and you're playing 2 plus a flex, you can expect 40 to 50% ownership. Sharkondrick West was 60%. Adrian Peterson, this is in a 14,000 person tournament. Adrian Peterson was 92% owned.
Yeah.
And Thomas Rawls was 15% owned. If you played him, you were pretty much guaranteed to place. You needed to average. He scored 43.5 points. I know you had a league that you saw 80 was the place in a tournament,
Yeah,
right?
in the one of the single entry, or excuse me, it's the multi-entry late slate GPP. Yeah, 80 is right at the moment money winning lineup. Anything with 80 or more, 80.2.
Yeah, and I had mine were a little higher, but it was the tournaments that I entered were 98 and 106. So, anyways, you factor in 43 of those points coming from one guy who's 15% owned in a tournament that pays out 20%. You are pretty much guaranteed money. You need to average 6 points from every guy in the rest of your lineup in order to place. And I did so well. One of those actually placed in the top 1%, which means my quarter turned into $2.
Hooray! What an investment! What a return on your
Yeah.
investment.
Well, and that also brings up our other favorite point of always. We haven't determined if it's gambling, if it's entertainment, what it is.
It's gambling.
It's gambling, James says. But we do this for entertainment.
Yes, we do.
I know this last week with the injuries, everybody starts complaining. Oh, man, Devonta Freeman, you're screwing me. No, the guy had a horrific concussion, brain potential. We did this with, I think, a combined $20 tops for fun.
Yeah, this weekend I spent $12.
Okay. I spent 12 as well, actually, specifically. So I lied. We spent $24 for fun. This is a man's life on the line. So, again, if you do have a problem gambling, we understand. Some of us have been there. So don't be afraid to seek help. But we give this advice for entertainment purposes, for fun, and we want you guys to have fun with the Fool Duel. So, that said, what does Week 12 of the NFL look like? It looks like turkey.
Thanksgiving and FanDuel. I haven't looked on DraftKings, but FanDuel is having a lot of fun with their contest names. They have the instead of calling it the squib, well, they still call it the squib, but they called it the squash squib.
Nice.
And let me just bring these up so I could look at them. Thursday only, yeah. The sweet potato drive, the squash squib, the pecan snap.
I think the Cowboys got to be playing in the squash squib, right?
The roasted rush.
By the way, Cowboys 3-0 with Tony Romo at quarterback.
Cornbread kickoff.
Every time they show that.
Sorry, they have a lot of great names. No, Tony Romo playing well. He's back.
Yeah.
He started a little slow, but you saw that it was raining like crazy when they started that Miami game. Yeah. But they're the second game. Let's start with the first game. Eagles at Lions.
The line right now is even.
Yep.
But with an over-under of 46, not a low line. Slightly, it's above average line. We saw that with the Lions last week too, and what did that do for us? Diddly squat.
And you thought there'd be a lot happening in the game from last week with the Raiders. What was Derek Carr's ownership percentage in our little Fool Do contest on?
It was like 53%.
So half of the field in our DraftKings tournament, in our 15-man, used Derek Carr. It was a great matchup. The Lions on the season are the passer rating they are giving up to opposing quarterbacks is 103.3. I thought there'd be a lot of throwing in this game. I thought they would have hit the over and
30% owned in a. This is another arcade league, quarter arcade. 70,000 people, 30% Derek Carr ownership. So he was a popular play.
Yeah,
the Lions shut him down. Back-to-back weeks winning with 18 points.
Do they hold the Eagles to 18 points?
Well, this also goes into a little bit of gloating over last week and my Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense call, which is one of the few things I got right from the early slate, dominating the Philadelphia Eagles. Are the Eagles? Can they stand up against the Lions? Is the Lions defense that good, or do the Raiders just? I know they had it sounded like they had a lot of penalties that game, some breakdowns, some injuries.
Do you buy the Thanksgiving Day narrative? Do you think the Lions are going to get up and play hard because it's Thanksgiving?
Have they ever? When was the last time the Lions won on Thanksgiving?
No, we have to look it up.
When was the last time the Lions won at Lambeau, though? So that it's an argument that people make, but I don't know that it matters because they hadn't won in Lambeau since 1991 when Randall Cobb was 18 months old. And what'd they do last week? Last week and a day ago. They won at Lambeau.
They did.
Answer that
They
question.
beat Aaron Rodgers, and it looks like something's wrong with him. But
So I will say the main thing from this game that I take, I wouldn't pick a winner. I'm a little scared of that. But Joik Bell, again, scary play because he hasn't quite been producing, but he's been getting the snaps in that backfield. Ridiculously been getting the snaps in the backfield. We haven't gotten the numbers on this week yet because everybody's holding off for Monday night. But I know last week he had 49 versus a combined 29 from the other two backs, Theo Riddick and that other guy. So he's not a bad play, especially in a weird week for prices where I think this week you are looking for some value guys, just like two maybe per lineup.
they're there, but yeah. Mm-hmm. So since 2010, the Lions have scored from 2010 to 2014 24 points, 15 points, 31 points, 40 points, 34 points. So
yeah, but that was with Matthew Stafford at quarterback, and now they have, I don't know.
The same player.
The same player, but he's not the same player. That's
sure, but hey, he's done okay. These past few weeks, he 20 points, 16 points. I like the Lions as a play this week. I think you could load up Stafford, and I think you can load up Calvin Johnson. That would be those would be the two players I'm most comfortable with. I think I'm buying into that Thanksgiving Day narrative, and they want to score points for the home crowd that trudged out to the field to enjoy a hot dog on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting story here too is that I don't know if you saw, but apparently Sanchez and Sproles got into it during the game.
Oh boy.
And we all know that it's another Chip Kelly blew a big game sort of thing. Sproles did get a touchdown last week, as I called, but yeah, so there's some more tension going on there. Jordan Matthews only got 4 targets for 4 yards at one point in the fourth quarter. He may have ended with slightly more than that, but everybody was preaching how he was Sanchez's favorite last year. That didn't come through. So the Eagles definitely have something to prove too. The question is, can they?
Sanchez started really well. Well, not really well, but he started well enough.
Their first drive was just perfect. It was a perfect drive.
And 16.8 points from I can't remember what his price was last week.
Josh Huff, is that here?
No, Sanchez.
Oh, Sanchez. Okay, yeah, because Josh Huff is my sleeper in that one too. He like every time I look up, it's like, oh, Josh Huff got a touchdown.
That's what I kept seeing too. I had Red Zone on, and I just kept, Josh Huff again.
Yeah.
So I like DeMarco Murray. I think that he's getting the work. He gets work out of the passing game. Detroit's defense, even though they've the last 2 weeks have held the Packers and the Raiders to what they held the Packers to 7. They won by 18-16, 18-13.
Yeah.
So after their bye, the combined points totals is what 29.
That's pretty low.
It's pretty low, but it's that short week. You wonder if one of those teams isn't going to make that short week adjustment.
Yeah. Well, the other thing to look at with this too is, I like where you're going with this. I feel like you're going towards maybe playing the Lions defense, and I'm not afraid of that because, Sanchez, he's famous for the butt fumble. Last week he had a no-look interception, pretty much. That said, the Eagles defense also, I know they got wasted by the Buccaneers, but I heard through Twitter that there were 3 or 4 dropped interceptions. Like Jameis Winston, and we'll get to his game later, but slightly overblown on his success rate because he was handed multiple second chances in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they get they get three of those or they get one of those interceptions. If it's an early one, who knows what happens from there? Um, that said, the Lions' defense is not
bad.
showing up in that search because I forget how these websites work. It's bad.
I have some Lions defense stats right now. They're giving up a 103.3 passer rating.
I was just trying to
opposing
find their
quarterbacks.
cost.
Their
103.3.
Oh, their cost on FanDuel is 4,400.
Gotcha. And then over here on DraftKings, where are they? Are they even on here?
Are you on a Thursday slate?
I thought I did click on a Thursday slate, but I must not have. So just ignore me and listen to some stats for a minute.
Detroit defense is giving up 4.1 yards a carry, league leading 15 rushing touchdowns, 116.7 yards per game. I like Murray as a play. If you're on FanDuel, he's going to be it's either him or Matt Forte, and Matt Forte, will get to him. He's interesting. It looks like this will be the week he's back, and he always gets that work. But, excuse me. But, so yeah, DeMarco Murray is my play on the Eagles. You could look at Brent Selleck, who last week had 7 receptions for 79 yards against Tampa Bay. The Lions have given up 49 receptions for 448 yards and 8 touchdowns to opposing tight ends. That's good for 9.6 points per game using ESPN scoring. I'm using an ESPN.
I'm sorry, I missed something. Is Ertz out officially?
Didn't he get hit hard? I saw that replay and it looked terrible.
Got knocked out.
I mean, it's 4 days.
Yeah.
Concussion already cleared to attend team meetings. Stupid NFL. If they were good in any way, they'd just be like, look, we're not going to bring a guy with a huge concussion back on 3 days.
This goes back 10 years, 7 years. You remember Don Beebe played for the Bills.
Yeah.
Had that Mark Kelso. Mark Kelso played for the Bills.
I don't remember.
He was a special teams specialist during those Bills championship almost years. And he had a helmet that looked like it had a giant pad on top.
Yeah.
So it was like twice the size. Looked like the dumbest thing ever. Looked like what was that 3-on-3 or like 5-on-5 football game that you used to play? Blitz, NFL Blitz.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like those guys with the big giant heads.
Yeah.
That said, it's like a 98% concussion-proof helmet. But it doesn't look cool. No NFL player wants to wear it because it doesn't look cool.
Yeah.
So they could just mandate that. They could say, listen, we don't care how it looks. We care about you not getting concussions ever when you play an NFL game, and require that you wear it, especially because then it trickles down somebody finds a way to make it look cool, and then kids start wearing that, and the kids getting concussions is the real issue. The high school players, the junior high players getting concussions is the real issue. So sorry, tangent there about the NFL. But
sorry.
Another weird tangent. Apparently, on DraftKings, the reason I said 14 games earlier, and I thought, but nobody's on a bye, as I was saying it, they don't have a Thursday early to Monday slate. They only have a Thursday late to Monday slate.
Oh, so they're punting that Philly-Detroit game.
So we won't have anybody from the Philly-Detroit or the Cowboys games in our
or the Dallas
league
one.
roster. But yeah, just a heads up on that. And that's why I wasn't able to find the Lions when I was doing that search. Okay. So speaking of the next game, we got Panthers, Cowboys. Cowboys are 2-point underdogs against the undefeated Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton, who threw for 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers this week.
Impressive.
Very impressive.
And I like...
Most impressive.
Cam Newton, he's a great play every week, it seems. Why would you pick against him?
Cost. That's all.
Cost?
Or Cowboys defense.
Well, the Cowboys defense this year has been okay.
It's been the weeks I thought it was going to be bad, it was good, and the weeks I thought it was going to be good, it was bad.
Yeah, 4.2 yards per carry allowed to opposing rushers, 10 rushing touchdowns. Their secondary I've seen highlights and I've had them on a bit. And their secondary, they've been making plays. They're allowing a 90.3 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's not all on the secondary, obviously. 231 passing yards per game, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing that might scare you away from Cam Newton is he's 7,100, which places him at one of the most expensive quarterbacks overall for the week.
Hmm.
But again, since we're only looking at those early Thursday slates, don't go into the big, so he's the third most there. He could be a great play in those smaller slates, especially if people are throwing out the money for Aaron Rodgers or playing. It's Aaron Rodgers on DraftKings 7,400, Cam Newton 7,100, Tony Romo 58, Matthew Stafford 58. So whatever you do, you'll be able to afford whoever you want. Oh, and Mark Sanchez at 5,200, and is it who else is? Oh, Jay Cutler at 5,100.
Looking
Yeah, we
back
always have to pause and give some dead air for Jay Cutler.
Yeah,
Just
Jay
depresses
Cutler.
all of us.
Well, we'll get to him.
Even non-Bears fans get depressed by him.
Since 2010, Cowboys have scored 27 points, 20 points, 31 points, 31 points, 10 points. So last year was their lowest scoring effort on Thanksgiving this decade when they lost 33-10 last year, which is a game I don't remember at all. I do remember that Bears-Lions game and that Seahawks game. But
I don't know. Did I say last week that I like Darren McFadden? Because I ended up plugging him into a few lineups.
And he did well. He's the most
running.
expensive running back on that Thursday slate at $8,100
On FanDuel.
on FanDuel. Yes.
And I'm on DraftKings where he's actually behind a questionable Matt Forte at 6,800, DeMarco Murray at 6,100, McFadden's at 5,500. And
I like that price.
I like that price too. Of course, again, this is another slate where price really doesn't matter in these slates. Like you always end up with extra money in these slates.
That's true.
So the danger is he over-owned in the slate? That said, he's also showing a lower fantasy points per game than both those guys, as well as the tied for him with him, LaShawn McCoy. His fantasy points per game are 13.2 versus their 17.7, 16.9, and 16.2. So there's a good chance maybe he does get overlooked.
Yeah, he could.
Langford is cheaper at 5,300, and Jonathan Stewart's at 5,200. So I like McFadden though because he's been getting the workload lately, especially with the dropping of Joseph Randle, and I feel like they really do want to balance the offense now that they have a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield and can find his receivers in timing. They're going to exploit that the opposite way to really push the running game, I think. And so I really like Darren McFadden this week. Dez Bryant is not a scary play.
I'd start Bryant. I like Dez and Romo too. If you want to roll out a Romo lineup, they need to win. They need to win out pretty much, right? To get to the division. They're going to try until they lose a game. They're going to try real hard. So if they go down, they're going to throw a ton. And that's why I think Romo, Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams is, I believe, 5,800, 5,900 here on FanDuel.
That's a cheap price on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think that's I like that price.
Yeah. So lots of fun options from the Cowboys there. We're sounding high in the Cowboys. That said, Cam Newton can't go wrong.
No, you never can. He's going to be highly owned. He'll be the highest owned quarterback on Thanksgiving if you're playing in a Thanksgiving solo slate.
Another fun one is Darren Funchess.
Yep.
Who
I like Devin Funchess.
Devin Funchess. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Don't correct me, James, please. Not in front of the kids. So Darren Funchess is 3,900. Devin Funchess is 3,900. James, I can't even get a laugh from you, man.
I'm sorry. I'm filling out my lineup for our Full Duel Turkey Challenge.
He's multitasking.
I am
He's taking all this advice that we're giving and he's plugging it in. So Devin Funchess 3,900. But again, from what I've been hearing, because I almost rather than look at the games, like to see what people are saying on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because you can see it all going on, and everybody's saying that he is playing with the joy that Cam Newton inspires. These last couple games that he's just been a new person on the sidelines and in the games showing effort. So 3,900. He's only averaging 5.5 points per game, but again, in those smaller slates, you're looking for guys that are lesser owned and are going to generate some numbers that have some big upside. So just keep Devin Funchess in mind from that game.
I like it. I like the play.
And
And I'm going to tell you right now, I have him in one of my single entry Turkey Day lineups
oh,
for
fun.
yeah. So I
And
like punches.
I don't like either of these defenses. I think the over under is 46.5,
Hmm.
and I see that happening with such a small spread.
What do you see, the
Now,
over or the under? Or you see him hitting around 46?
I see him hitting definitely around it. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes over.
Hmm.
That said, actually, my defensive play comes from the very next game. It's almost too obvious.
Bears?
Chicago Bears at Green Bay Packers.
Tell me you're picking the Bears defense for
over
$4,000.
under top over under of this week. It's tied, but top over under the entire week 47.5, and the spread is Green Bay by 9.
Oh,
That tells me that the Green Bay defense, Green Bay is going to put up a lot of points, and their defense is going to shut down the Bears.
no, no. See, I mean, watching my Vikings they gave away that game with all those penalties
Yeah,
and
they
bad
did.
plays. I didn't like the play calling either. They didn't adjust to how bad their outline was. Then when they ran quick throws to Diggs, or it worked, but they just kept running these pass plays that took forever to develop, and then Bridgewater gets sacked, and it was bad. But Aaron Rodgers did not look right. Something was wrong. He just airmailed a lot of balls to open receivers. I don't know. He didn't look hurt. Like, I couldn't see him limping or favoring anything, but something is wrong with him. I don't know if it's the yips or whatever. 4 days rest. I'm playing into this Thursday narrative. I see the under, and I like the Bears defense.
Well, there you have it. The fools have dueled.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm the opposite. And at 3,100 too. I like that Green Bay Packers defense. You know, we don't know how strong Alshon Jeffrey's going to be. He's still questionable with no updates. You know, obviously they're going to wait until the last minute to tell us that. We don't know if Matt Forte. They said he might be back this week, and then we didn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
So probably holding out for the fact that it's a short week and wants to come play. But I mean, I'd prefer Jeremy Langford to a gimpy Matt Forte personally. And that scares me away from that too. Timeshare there. I don't know. I don't know who's going to get the reps. I had Wilson in this last week because he was super cheap and Jeffrey was out, and he did okay. But now, who do you go with? You know, you've got some weapons for Cutler, but also you've got Cutler manning those weapons. I don't like the Bears at all this week. After I went big on them last week. And I like the Packers. He didn't look right, but he also didn't look at Randall Cobb enough.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Bears are one of the worst teams against tight ends, and he's really fallen in love with Richard Rodgers. So that's one of my value plays this week is Richard Rodgers. I think I actually have him in my Fool Duel Turkey Challenge League.
Oh, wonderful.
I have Cobb and Rodgers in that. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm actually avoiding Aaron Rodgers overall just because there's another quarterback I like more. But I like what his receivers are going to be able to do. I got Packers heavy.
You're Packers heavy. Okay.
Yep, from the Bears fan on
From the
Turkey
Bears
Day.
fan.
So now we go to Sunday morning. The second highest, or the same, tied over under. New Orleans Saints, Houston Texans. Saints coming off a bye, Texans coming off of an emotional sort of must-win victory over the Jets. 24-17. DeAndre
24
Hopkins, 2 touchdowns.
It was a great day for Hopkins.
My Nate Washington scored 3.9 points. But Cecil Shorts did throw a touchdown pass to my Alfred Blue, who I had in
Oh,
a couple lineups. Yeah. So poaching touchdowns from TJ Yates is Cecil Shorts. Did you see that? You catch that?
I didn't know. I did not see that replay. No.
Yeah. But this is, again, tied with that Packers game. 47.5 is the over-under. And we've seen the Saints explode, and we've seen the Saints defense unexplode.
Yeah, that Saints defense is easily one of the worst in the league.
But they're coming off a bye week in
Yeah.
which they fired their defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting them to come out guns blazing. Like Sean Payton, don't fire me. Even though I feel like he's the one quarterback who would, or coach who would never get fired, just because he did bring a championship ring to New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know, and he's been there so long. I don't think he'd be fired, is all I'm saying. That said, I love this game. I've got again in my full dual lineup this week. I did a total Saints stack. I went with Breeze. He's the one that I like over Rodgers.
Hmm.
I went with Watson in DraftKings, where I actually flexed Watson and Rodgers. So I'm doing the double tight end flex. Mark Ingram is steady, and at 6,400 on DraftKings, he's still a really a good play for what he does, without having to go to that crazy 9,000 Devonta Freeman, Todd Gurley range.
Hmm.
And then you got the only tough one is who do you pick between Snead and Cooks? Maybe Colston too on the side.
Could be a Colston week.
Could be, but I'm running with Cooks. I'm trusting my gut there. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention in the last one about the Packers. Is how James Jones is averaging 19 yards per reception. So even though he's only got 30 targets, he's got more yards than 30 receptions, more yards than the 47 reception Randall Cobb, and one more touchdown. Gosh. So retraction, I like James Jones. And I like Randall Cobb.
You do like James Jones.
And I like all the Saints.
For 4,600 on DraftKings, since that's where I am right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
Sorry, I just went on for like 10 minutes. How are you, James?
Fine.
What's going on over there? You finished that lineup yet?
I like DeAndre Hopkins. No, I'm tweaking it right now. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a great choice every week if you want to pay up for a top-end receiver. I like another one
Concur.
that we'll get to. New Orleans Saints are giving up 4.9 rushing yards per attempt, 131.2 per game. How do you not at least take a look at that Texans rushing game? Alfred Blue is...
That's actually not... That's not supporting you. That's answering your question on how you don't look at them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't look at them because of Alfred Blue?
Gosh, he just always seems to underperform just slightly. Like, he just doesn't have the burst. Just if he had like 20 more pounds or 2 more inches or just like longer hamstring, I don't know. But he just always just a little leaves you feeling a little blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear you. And he's cheap too. He's I think 4,800 on DraftKings.
4,500 on
4,500.
That's a good price. I like that price. And then over on FanDuel,
go back to FanDuel because I don't like you correcting me. I want to be wrong and boldly wrong.
FanDuel, he is, I don't know. I'd have to bring up another slate. So I think he's probably more. Is my guess. So yeah, I'd go Alfred Blue. I like DeAndre Hopkins. Would you take a look at who's their quarterback now? TJ Yates?
TJ Yates. I would take a look at him, especially in a tournament 5,300. So he's at that, we've seen that lower end 5,000 to 5,500 for quarterbacks. He's averaging 11.1 points per game. Yesterday he had 15.7. In Week 10 against Cincinnati, he had 6.6. So he was able to get 2 touchdowns, 229 yards, 0 interceptions on 34 attempts. He also ran for... That's not scrolling properly. I think he ran for 3 yards or something, or 16 yards on 3 rushes. So he's not a bad tournament play by any means, especially if you want to pair him up with DeAndre Hopkins. Could be a good stack.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit afraid of them being able to put up the same numbers I think the Saints are going to be able to put up. I know that you have no confidence in the Saints' defense.
I don't.
I'm a little bit the opposite. I think that the Washington game was just an unprepared fluke, sort of look ahead to the bye week, if you may. But so that is that game. Start Nuke. I'm starting all the Saints. You ready for your game of the week?
The Vikings and the Falcons.
Oh, those Falcons.
The Atlanta Falcons. My line here says Atlanta's favored by a point, and the over-under is 46.
Yeah, if you go overseas, it's 2 points, and the over-under is 46.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you want an extra point on the Vikings, talk to me. I'll hook it up.
Oh boy.
I don't know, man. I've said it every week, and I said it again this week. That was the game I was able to listen to on the radio. So I caught about 2/3 of the game, and it was just the same. Red zone interceptions for Matt Ryan,
Hmm.
weird bounces. When does it stop being weird bounces and start being something we go with? You know, like I don't know. I don't know, James.
It's tough. I mean, the Vikings defense are giving up 4.3 yards a carry. You saw what Eddie Lacy would do. They're a team that doesn't generate turnovers that much. They just make plays like tackles and sacks.
Yeah.
So, and then they force you to punt. That's how their defense is successful.
So you think that they'll be able to shut down the Falcons? Because the Falcons have a powerful team. They just
They
haven't
sure
been able
do.
to.
And they're at home, the Falcons.
So Blair Walsh is a great play this week. I think we can agree on
Both
that.
kickers. If you want to roll out either kicker. It's one of the. There's not that many indoor games. I know there's an Indy game.
Yeah, Indy has Connor Barth going against them Buccaneers at Indianapolis.
So
He's 4,800 though. He's like fourth most expensive kicker.
Oh, my.
So depends on how much you want to spend on your kicker. But yeah, I mean, the main thing, and this is the one problem with recording on a Monday. Will Devonta Freeman be cleared to play? That
That'll
obviously
be
makes
tough.
a huge difference in this game.
Yeah.
If he's not cleared to play, oh my gosh, Julio Jones, snap him up. If he is cleared to play, I still like Julio Jones.
Me too.
But it's
And
not
you'll always
clear to
like
play.
Julio.
Yeah, if he's not cleared to play, just imagine what that does to Julio's value.
Yeah, he'll get so many looks, and they'll have Xavier Rhodes on him. Although, I mean, he held. I don't even want to talk.
By the
about
way,
that
Xavier
Vikings
Rhodes,
game.
one of the worst athlete autographs of all time.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad one.
Yeah.
I like Stephon Diggs. I like the Atlanta defense. They're giving up an 83.6 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks.
You almost
on
have
the
to like
ground.
Adrian Peterson, right?
3.6 yards per carry. Atlanta. I think their defense might be a sneaky play.
Which one?
The Atlanta defense.
You think so?
I'm going to stay away from the Vikings defense from a DFS standpoint because they just don't generate the type of points you need to be successful in fantasy.
What's the deal with Bridgewater? Because I saw him, he gets knocked out, he comes back in, his shoulder, his side.
High completion percentages, it's the O-line, really.
Mm-hmm.
He just keeps getting banged up and hurt, and that O-line, Matt Khalil committed 3 penalties, 2 early bad ones, holding, and I can't remember what the other one was. Probably another hold.
Mm-hmm.
Or a false start. It was a false start, then a hold. And they need to go into this offseason and do nothing but draft corners and O-linemen and sign them. Otherwise, they're good, and that's their weakness. So, does Atlanta have a group, like a front four that, or I don't know if they run a 3-4 or a 4-3, but does their line scare you? Is their line productive? And just looking at how many yards per rush they're allowing, which is a bad way to do it, I would think that they're all right.
I can give you a considerable other way to look at it. How many times did they touch Matt Hasselbeck, who's 42 years old and doesn't have legs? He's in a wheelchair now.
Yeah.
Hasselbeck was able to make some throws, had some time.
Right. You're right.
So I don't know. I like the Vikings. I like Adrian Peterson.
You like
Hands down,
Adrian
like
Peterson? He's pretty matchup proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he'll get held, or I mean, they'll hold him like they did this past week. But even then, he got in the end zone. He wasn't a complete dud. It's just that he didn't earn his price.
Yeah.
So,
how about should we cry about Kyle Rudolph for just a minute?
Yeah, we both had him. I had him in a lineup, and I took him out, and he looked really, really good. He made great catches too.
Yeah.
And the Falcons' defense has given up 51 receptions, 513 yards, and 6 touchdowns to opposing tight ends.
You want to hear the depressing thing?
Yeah.
So that lineup that I was telling you about that placed top 1% in a lobby, my tight end in that lineup, I switched out to Travis Kelce,
Mm-hmm.
who got 9.6 points,
Yeah.
from Kyle Rudolph, who got, 11 more than that, 12 more than that, which would have bumped me up like $2 whole.
Oh,
I could have made $4 on that quarter.
yeah.
So depressing.
Oh boy.
So sit start Vikings. I like Peterson. You like Diggs.
I
You like the Falcons.
like the Falcons D is sneaky.
Sneaky
If
D.
you're interested in a sneaky D,
My-
they cost what do the Falcons cost on
I guarantee you it's more than the sneaky D in my neighborhood.
45? You know what? Maybe the Falcons aren't a sneaky D. My team lost, and so I think they're absolute trash, and that they'll lose out for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
So-
what, like 7-3 now?
Yeah.
Still
So
at the top of the wild card. In fact, actually, that's an interesting point. This is a very close, like, Atlanta's just below the wild card, and Vikings are in the wild card.
yeah.
So we're getting to that point of the season where this is a wild card implication game for both these teams playing against each other.
It is.
So
Yeah,
does
well,
that pressure get to either of these teams?
we'll just have to see how the Vikings bounce back after a loss and how both teams bounce back after a loss. Both bouncing back after home losses.
Yeah.
But
The crazy thing is Matt Ryan felt like a horrible play, but he still got over 20 points this last week, even though he kind
Better
of
than-
lost the game for him.
better than Carr,
Yep.
and I'm
Better
pretty
than
sure
Carr.
they were around the same price.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
well, Derek
we have,
Carr is 74, Matt Ryan 79 this week on FanDuel, but I think it was the margin was a little smaller.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
St. Louis Rams, Cincinnati Bengals.
St. Louis, Cincinnati. Boy.
9-point favorites for the Bengals against the Case Keenum-led St. Louis Rams. What a disappointment that team is. Over-under is 42. Now, we saw the Bengals have put up 31 points last night. Lost on a last-second field goal, which shouldn't have even happened, but they have somewhat
that was
porous
controversial.
defense. Well,
that-
he would have made the field goal from the extra 5 yards anyways.
Yeah, it was getting a lot of run on Twitter.
Yeah. But that whole drive, it was just like 3 completions in a row. That shouldn't have happened. That said, the Rams have scored, I think, 2 points combined in each of their last 2 outings. Tavon Austin has had -3 targets. They've literally been looking away from him and running
Yeah.
on out-of-bounds routes. What do you think? I think this might be a low line. I think it might be a confusingly low line. Recency bias.
What is it? It says 42 for me here. What did you have?
Yeah, 42. Yep.
Well, I think if you're picking a Ram, it's Todd Gurley, and that's about it. And I'm not too confident with it, but he's been getting work. He is the one that gets work on that offense. I'll look quickly at how many touches.
I'm going
he
to say
had.
it right now.
25 carries against Baltimore.
You've already convinced me to run a St. Louis Rams GPP with Case Keenum. I'm going to put Tavon in there.
Oh, it didn't take much for me.
Didn't
I
take much.
didn't even talk about either of those.
You hadn't
guys.
even
I
got
just
to 'em
talked
yet.
about their expensive good player.
And I'm going to be the one player out of the 200,000 lineups that has Case Keenum going.
Keenum to Austin. Hopefully he throws him a screen. He doesn't hand the ball off to him.
Yeah.
So you get those points.
What if he hands the ball off in front of him?
Well, a shovel pass.
Yeah.
I'm fine with a shovel pass. Aaron Rodgers showed how good he is at that yesterday.
Yeah, and you're because Teddy Bridgewater ended
Sure.
on
Yeah.
a horrible shovel pass.
Yeah, if ended completely because I stopped watching.
Oh,
when
yeah.
they kicked that final field goal, I got up and left.
Yeah, his last play was a horrible attempt at a shovel pass that missed the receiver.
Oh yeah, it was one of those days. We'll get him at Lambeau end of the season. Cincinnati has given up 4.5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. Does that make you like Ty Gurley more or less?
Makes me like him more. That's
Yeah.
the thing. The Bengals' defense last night was porous.
Yeah.
And they only scored 6 points against the Texans in a weird thing. Texans have a really bad defense this year, and they were able to hold them. I don't know. I see this being one of those sort of surprise games this week. I'm not saying that the Bengals will be held, though the Rams do have a good defense. But I think that 9 point line is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I do too. And it says
Uh,
10 here. It,
yeah.
I I like the Rams kind to play well.
Yeah.
I can't pick a certain player other than for me it's Gurley, and then everything else is a big risk. But let's move on to Cincinnati. What do you like? Do you like Cincinnati against this?
I like Tyler Eifert every week. I like Tyler Eifert.
Mm-hmm.
Did it again last night with a touchdown and
Yeah.
some good yardage. Yesterday we saw a reversal of the snaps count, or at least the carries. Snaps count was heavily in Giovanni Bernard's favor 2 weeks ago. Last week, based on the carries at least, it looked like it was way in Jeremy Hill's favor. Got 2 touchdowns, so that's something that just I'm scared away from. I don't like those obvious of shares.
Yeah, I'm not really leaning toward either one. I just don't think. I think there's better options at running back that can score more points that are going to get more consistent work.
Yeah.
I want 20 carries from my running back, and you're not going to get it from either one. And you just got to get lucky that one of them gets a touchdown, like Jeremy Hill last night.
Yeah.
So, that said, I always love to point to the. Oh, St. Louis now it's down a little bit, but I believe they still lead the league in opponents' completion percentage. Nope, now San Francisco and Tampa Bay. But you could complete passes on St. Louis, and so that's why, again, yeah, Eifert is a great option. The St. Louis isn't that great against the tight end. They've given up 50 receptions for 540 yards. A.J. Green, well, last night, 4 for 79, but he's always going to get looks.
Yep.
I don't know if I like Marvin Jones or Sanu at all. They're obviously super risks. And I wouldn't start Dalton. I think he's too up and down. Is
I'm
this
doing
a week
it
you are
as
gonna,
we speak? No, not that, but I'm doing it. I'm going crazy on this game. I'm going all in on this game
Oh wow, okay.
in a Sunday early tournament. We're gonna get Case Keenum, Marvin Jones. He's gonna finally produce. You're gonna be amazed, James.
Okay. I'm already amazed. Marvin Jones and who is TJ Yates? Or Case Keenum.
Keenum. Case Keenum. Going all the way, except it looks like there's no Sunday early. I'm going to have to wait to do this.
Oh, boy.
All right, so if you're on Twitter, tweet me Sunday morning and make sure that I do this lineup, because right now I'm not spending $9 on this lineup. That's ridiculous. For a 5-ticket mega win. Oh, yeah, so I did that again this week. Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the lineup that's stacked. But, no, so I mean, it's a weird, risky game, but the Bengals have been producing some numbers, but it's hard to pick which guy aside from Eifert and AJ Green. You know he's going to get 7 receptions at least 70 yards.
I hope he's in the end zone.
Hope it's in the end zone, and he could go off for 14 or 15
He could.
receptions.
Any week he has that ability. Let's move on. What's your next one?
I got Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Indianapolis Colts.
Oh,
Buccaneers with a breakout win against the Eagles.
Sure was.
5 touchdowns, 235 rushing yards for Doug Martin without a touchdown. What a weird line that is from a fantasy perspective. Like, how does a guy average 10 yards per carry and not make it in the end zone?
It's weird. Really weird. I had a Doug Martin lineup, and I was disappointed. Not really, though,
Yeah,
because
that's what I was-
23.5 points. But, when I saw the rushing yards, I was like, what? No touchdowns? Come on.
Did he have no receptions, or was it like 1 reception for 12 yards or something? Like
He had 0
Really?
receptions.
Oh, he had 0 receptions.
Yes.
Well, that's straightforward, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of one of those things we always complain about things being shared and everything. It's like, no, the guy just got the rushes.
Yeah.
So, over under is 47, so they're just
Oh,
below
boy.
the highest in the league. I'm sure Hasselbeck is starting again. I think Luck is out for quite a few weeks with that kidney. They're just hopefully can come back because they're still in the playoff hunt. Both
They
these
are.
teams are still in the playoff hunt. With
Yeah.
how if the Falcons are losing at the same time that the Buccaneers are playing, that's an interesting place in that division. So,
Mhm.
you know, I like Dante Moncrief.
Yeah, I do too. I always like Moncrief. He's a good safety valve for
Yep.
Hasselbeck.
He is Gosh, I got to get back into. I'm always flipping through different screens, so it takes just a second to
Yeah,
check
that's
these
fine.
prices. 4,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah, and he's going to
Super
be.
affordable.
They like to keep him. Well, his price has dropped. Well, he's 59 on FanDuel.
Yeah. Okay. So still affordable. Hilton's 57 on DraftKings, so his price actually has gone down, but I feel like Hasselbeck doesn't have the arm to take advantage of Hilton quite the
No.
same. And Ahmad Bradshaw, we saw got the work we called for Frank Gore this last week.
Yeah.
The only question is the Buccaneers defense. I called it last week too. They are a stout defense.
They are, and they're good against the run. It's a league leader, 3-point yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm.
The longest run they've given up this year is a 39-yard run.
I'd be curious to see their receptions to running backs, actually, because this is something that I've been feeling for a bit, and it's coming up in my other big tournament play of the week, is a backup quarterback got reps with the backup running back. So Matt Hasselbeck has gotten his reps with Ahmad Bradshaw.
Yes, that makes
So
sense, yes.
it feels like a safety valve there. And we saw, I felt like there was quite a few passes to him. Again, I was actually listening to that game, so I wasn't watching the stats as closely. But I think he ended up with at least 3 receptions, if not more. So there's a little PPR going on there and a little reception yards as well, upside with Bradshaw, even though, as you said, the Buccaneers' defense is stout against the run.
Oh, I was talking about Jacksonville. My bad. Buccaneers are good against the run, 3.7 yards per attempt, 104.5 yards per game on the ground. Their longest run they've given up this year, 21 yards, better than Jacksonville.
Oh, so they're even better. Okay.
They're great.
So at least we were still on the same page.
Exactly. It wasn't a bad call. Tampa's a good defense to look at, although who's the player you like? Quan
Alexander.
He is suspended for 4 games. For
What? Who'd he
testing
beat up, or what did he do?
Positive PED tests.
Oh, well, no wonder he was on such a tear. So I was right. I was just
Yeah.
right for, sadly, the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Um,
But I like
a
Doug Martin. I like Mike Evans. I think Jameis Winston's going to be a little too owned, that recency bias. Because I like Jameis. I'm rooting for him. I've been itching. I should have put him in last week, but I'm scared off by the Philly defense. But he's one of those players you want to put in your lineup because you want to root for him, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's about the fun.
Yeah.
5,500 on DraftKings.
Yeah. So, but I sure like Mike Evans. He's far and away a top receiver in the NFL. I like Doug Martin. I like Connor Barth. Let's roll up Connor Barth.
We also haven't seen ridiculous recency bias on Martin's price, 5,800 on DraftKings.
75 on FanDuel, and hopefully the lack of touchdowns kept him under 8.
Mm-hmm.
So
A good point.
Connor Barth is one of my kickers of the week. I'm gonna load him into my Sunday lineups. I like that indoor kicker, and he's second in kicker points per game behind Gostkowski here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, those are my choices, and let's just move on. Let's just barrel through it.
I like it.
Yep.
New York Giants versus Washington Redskins.
Oh my.
So the Redskins were my. I had a few Cousins lineups. I was doing sort of the high on the Redskins again, and they flipped the tables. They flipped the script last week with Carolina going off on them. But home this week, Matt Jones had a wonderful 2.2 fantasy points. Brought his price way down to 3,900. Chris Thompson is a joke as well. Alfred Morris is banged up in a joke. I don't know.
Well,
I'm getting depressed.
I like
talking
the
about
passing games. I'm not really in on the running games.
Mm-hmm.
Giants are giving up 4.2 yards per carry, 111 on the ground. Washington is giving up 4.8 yards a carry, 136 yards per game on the ground. So who's your running back? Just looking at that, it makes me think that the running back for New York is worth a look. But I just think there's going to be a lot of passing in this game. I like Eli a lot. I like Beckham a lot. If you're buying your one receiver, I think Beckham is the choice this week. He's a touch cheaper than Hopkins on FanDuel. I'm sure, I believe that is the same on DraftKings. You can bring that up if you want.
Yeah, 8,700 on DraftKings. Hopkins is 91 and
Yeah,
Jones is 94. He's also averaging significantly less points per game, though. He's averaging 21.3 versus
sure.
Hopkins 25 and Jones is
Yeah.
26.7.
Is Beckham in
That
the last three
said,
weeks, 8 for 130, 8 for 133 TDs, 9 for 105, no TDs, 4 for 104, one TD against a Washington defense that is banged up. You saw Cam Newton complete touchdown passes to 5 different receivers.
mhm.
A 100.1 passer rating allowed to opposing quarterbacks by the Washington defense. Eli Manning's my QB of the week.
Wow,
If you're paying
there
up,
you go.
if you're paying up.
Well, and I have to second you on Odell Beckham Jr. also. I think looking at recent, it felt like in that New Orleans game, actually, the one that he had the 3 touchdowns, there was a point in the second quarter. The Dallas game the week before I watched, and the Giants were trying to ground and pound it, and they just couldn't. They still eked out a victory because it was against the banged up fake Dallas team that we saw. But and against Philly the week before, they kept trying to ground and pound it. 4th and 1 on the goal line, and they're going for it with the running back. And that was the game, the New Orleans game, where in the second quarter, after they had failed on a 4th down conversion, the next drive they went to Odell Beckham when they were in that situation, and he got a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, he's got 3 touchdowns in that game, 130 yards, 8 receptions on 9 targets. And 9 targets was actually he'd had less the 2 games before, 8 and 6, a game that they lost and a game they eked out. And then against Tampa Bay, he went up to 17 targets, only caught 9 of them, 105 yards and no touchdowns, but that's 22.5 fantasy points. Week 10, 4 receptions on 12 targets, so his targets are back up there, 104 yards and a touchdown. I feel like something changed recently, and Eli realized that he was his target.
Yeah, and that's what
going with
happened last year. Odell went off in the second half last year. I think this is now when you just jump on and ride it. And when he's the cheapest of the 3 big-time receivers, I think, for me, he's the one I'm choosing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go other places in the New York Giants passing game, Ruben Randall is 5,600. His production has been not that great. Who is that other? Oh yeah, Dwayne Harris. Yeah, Dwayne Harris, 6 for 82 and a touchdown against New England in their last game.
Mm-hmm.
That's his tied for the most this year. He also had 6 for 72 against San Francisco. If I had to choose one or the other, I'm going to choose Dwayne Harris for just a bit cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
$300 cheaper on FanDuel.
I like Dwayne Harris. I feel like he has a good rapport with Eli.
Me too.
So I'm not afraid of him by any means. Ruben Randall that's a bit of a dart. That's the whole timeshare sort of feel with a wide receiver. Some one game he'll have 2 touchdowns. Next game he'll have 4 receptions for 40 yards.
Yeah.
Like
he gets red zone looks as a pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's still a risk. So those are our plays.
We don't have any confidence in the running game of the Giants, and I hate Larry Donnell.
Yeah, maybe look and see who's getting the touches for them because, again, the Washington defense is banged up and they are giving up decent numbers to opposing rushers. On the Washington side of the ball, Deshaun Jackson is back. He made a big play this past week.
I feel like ownership percentage wise, you could plug in Garcon or Jackson or even Jordan Reed because he's questionable. So watch that during the week. He might be used less. So if you're looking for like one guy at an ownership percentage standpoint, maybe. But I wouldn't build a roster around any of these guys.
No, they're just kind of fill-ins if you get to the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Garcon would be my pick.
Okay.
I was like,
I knew there was something that you liked there. I could tell.
I like Jamison Crowder. I always will. I always think he's interesting. Although this last week 1 for 5 and that's a whole point on FanDuel. So
yeah, I had good success with him 2 weeks ago when he took that line.
Yeah. Well, it was a good matchup.
Yeah.
But Yeah, let's move on. Let's just keep plowing through these.
Oakland Raiders. Everybody's disappointment from last week going up
Oh
against the
boy.
Tennessee Titans and Mariota's
Uh,
Ducks. What do you think? Delaney Walker
the
has been promoted on DraftKings to one of the top most expensive tight ends.
Good.
So he's definitely reflecting
What a
his
game.
recent abilities. But what a game. You like this game, huh?
No, it shouldn't be televised.
Anywhere?
Titans Raiders. Ugh. Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker. And hey,
Are we
Mariota's
done
shown
talking about this
signs.
game?
Mariota's shown signs of growth. The Tennessee defense isn't that great.
I mean, the Raiders are 29th against tight ends in points given up. So
Yeah.
5,400 for Delaney Walker is
A great price.
still a fair price,
I like it.
but not a scary play either. Especially because Mariota really uses him as an outlet.
Yeah.
But Andrews, and now we're seeing Cobb get a few carries in that offense, and Sankey and Dexter McCluster. There's too many backfield weapons for me to trust any of them.
I would go back to the well with Derek Carr. I think recency bias is going to keep people away from him. I'm not going to be heavily invested, but I'm taking a look. And I could see myself switching to Carr or switching more shares of Carr.
I'm surprised to see Tennessee's defense is second best about points allowed to running backs.
Oh,
So
interesting.
keep that in mind with Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
5,400 going against a super. Like, it might look appealing because of that, but if you're a matchups person, watch out for that Titans defense against the run. But is that just because their secondary is so porous?
Yeah. And people throw on him a lot. Tennessee is
No,
allowing
12th in points allowed to receivers.
Yeah, 214 passing yards per game, 94 for passer rating to opposing quarterbacks. Again, I think recency bias is going to keep people away from Carr, and he's worth a look, but I'm not heavily invested.
Cooper's
and I want to... Yep, Cooper.
Oh, he's at 6,800 and Crabtree is at 6,600. So we've seen that
Wow.
margin between them shrink as people are noticing that Crabtree is getting more looks and more snaps.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I didn't know that the margin was that close. I'm not
Also,
confident with any of them.
miniature side note, and I plugged him in and a few things as a small play. Seth Roberts. I saw a snap shares count. His snap shares have been up every week. Can't confirm that on last week, but he also had 7.4 fantasy points last week, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 54 yards. He's consistently caught 50% or more of his targets, except for week 10 against Minnesota. So he snatches his targets. 3 receptions on 5 targets in week 3, 3 receptions on 4 targets in week 9, 2 of 2 last week. 1 of 1 the week before in week 8. So he's interesting. I think that they've noticed that he doesn't drop the ball, and so he's gotten a little bit more love. So at 3,100, playing as the third receiver, again, that's one of those stats I wish that I could find where that's kept. How like the third receiver, how the slot receiver, how the running back receives, versus the defense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm looking at at NBA. Kevin Love is 27 points at
Yeah, he's
the
been going
half.
off tonight.
Yeah.
So
Let's move on.
that means that I got to enter in my password on my iPad again because that's where I've got the things today. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. This one's going to be a little tough to call because we haven't seen the Bills this week. We will be seeing them very shortly tonight, but we did see the Chiefs with some domination. I called their defense in all of my late slates actually produced 20 points against the San Diego Chargers, shut them down and produced turnovers. But the Bills are a question mark, a wild card at this point. So what do you think, James?
Well, I like the Chiefs look really good these past few weeks. Their defense has been really solid. It was a great call by you last week. I think the Chiefs they're definitely worth a look. They're 4,500, which is kind of middle of the pack on FanDuel. DraftKings, you can probably bring up their price right now. But I like the Chiefs' defense at home.
Yeah, it's not low, it's not high. I forget what exactly. I got distracted because I'm looking at the Sharkhandrick West injury status.
Yeah, and that'll be something to follow, and that's something you want to keep your eyes on because Spencer Ware, you saw what he did against a bad San Diego
96
defense.
yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 carries.
Yeah, Buffalo's defense is better against the run. It's not like they're amazing, but he'll definitely be worth a look at his price. Now I know I think he's 38 on DraftKings and on FanDuel.
Yeah, 38 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So if he gets the start, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
watch out again for ownership percentages too.
61 on FanDuel.
So
that'd be an interesting play at $6,100. But again, that's kind
going
of how
against the
FanDuel
12th
rolls.
ranked
Yeah.
going into tonight. Again, we'll see what LeGarrette Blount is able to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully a lot, because in my $20 million or $20 millionaire maker, I subbed out at the last minute Danny Woodhead for LeGarrette Blount when I should have done it for Rawls. I did it for Rawls, and then I got scared and did it for Blount. And so I need at least 43 points from Blount just to make me feel good about that move. So we'll see. But yeah, the Chiefs' defense has really come on in these last couple weeks, ever since the bye. They've been really solid. They destroyed the Broncos, destroyed Peyton Manning. Could that be the last we see of Peyton Manning, was him getting destroyed by this Chiefs defense?
It might be, poor Peyton. But as we both know, Vala Morgulis.
Yes. I love it. Travis Kelce, always a good play. Still a little afraid of any wide receivers on this team.
Yeah, me too. Although Jeremy Macklin's going to be, I like Macklin. I always have. So that's
Yeah. He got a dinger though. He had to sit out 2 plays because he got a helmet-to-helmet hit that was not called penalty. It was one of the worst things I've seen the NFL do this season.
A lot of bad calls this weekend. I saw that too. They went back to it on Red Zone, I think. And it's
They literally the defensive player, they both went out with dingers. It was such an obvious head-to-head hit.
Yeah.
It's like if both guys got a concussion or at least got knocked out,
you got to think about it.
How do
can't
you
just
not call the penalty? It's so obvious.
Sad.
So we've got Miami Dolphins, New York Jets. 2 teams that I've lost any excitement over.
Yeah, 4-6 Dolphins at the 5-5 Jets. The line I have here is Jets -3, and then over/unders at 42.5. You can't get too excited. I'm always intrigued by those Dolphins weapons. I really like Jarvis Landry. You know me, I like Rashard Matthews, and Lamar Miller. I think the Jets' defense is better than what they showed against Houston on Sunday. And Miami is allowing a 95.2 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks and 4.3 yards a carry, 138.6 yards on the ground to opposing running backs. Chris Ivory? Question mark?
He got knocked out for a bit.
Yeah, he did. But the work has been great. I'd keep my eye on Ivory going into that game, but I like keep your eye on Christopher Ivory.
Yeah.
Christopher.
Oh, that's so polite of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I mentioned this. I ran Brandon Marshall in a contrarian lineup to my actual feelings, and he produced a touchdown and some stuff. But
He did.
overall, the contrarian lineup apparently wasn't contrarian enough because I did bad in my early slate with that one and the ones I believed in. But I'm not too excited here again about any of this. The Dolphins had those like 1.5 amazing weeks, and then we saw them just dissipate. So. Over under 42. Vegas isn't very excited about this either. They're predicting
really
another one of those 24-17 type games that we've grown used to from these teams. So I don't know. I feel like Eric Decker is going to be heavily owned because people really like him.
71 on FanDuel for Decker. So yeah, but
That's
yes,
too
I agree.
expensive.
It's too expensive for me too. He gets looks every week. I think Fitzpatrick might be the one you're looking for. He's the starter. It's not like he did that great against Houston, but who else do they have? Geno? You're not going to start Geno over Ryan Fitzpatrick. They'll ride him out and then look elsewhere in the offseason.
Not at all. Yeah.
But
Dole.
they're just
I apologize.
both
to
teams
and Jets fans.
It's funny because both teams have options that are intriguing. I'm intrigued by the members of the Jets offense and the Dolphins offense. If I had to pick one, I guess I'd pick Jets offense. Yeah. Brandon Marshall's sitting there at 78.
If I
71.
if I had to pick
expensive.
one, like looking at this game, I'd pick the Jets because of their defense.
Yeah.
But not an exciting fantasy game. Over
No.
under 42. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
San Diego Chargers at Jacksonville. Now here's one of those immense
Yes.
upside games.
Yes,
kind of the
yes,
opposite.
yes. Jacksonville -4.
Yeah.
That's what I have here. 46.5.
Yep, 46.5. Jacksonville -4. I mean, the Chargers
They're
could
so
not
bad.
get it together
They're
against
bad.
the Chiefs. But the Chiefs' defense, maybe that's the Chiefs' defense talking. Because we saw the Chargers produce some points against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen them produce points. God, they miss Keenan Allen so bad.
Yeah.
But the Jaguars gave up 28 points to the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Points to tight ends.
On a Thursday.
And the Chargers are built around tight ends.
Yeah.
Delaney Walker went off.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think Gates or Green. Green
Mm-hmm.
had some looks in that game, even though Gates was healthy.
Yeah.
I like this game. This is a fun risk game. But
Yeah.
it's another one where you wonder how many other guys are high risking it too. You know,
Yeah. I like Gates for the Chargers. That's about it.
you don't like Woodhead.
No. That
You
Jags defense is good against the run, although he catches passes.
Yeah,
so in a PPR format, I like Woodhead. I'm probably staying away from him on FanDuel. The Jags, though, I love them. I like fire up Bortles, fire up Allen Robinson, fire up Hearns, fire up T.J. Yeldon.
Yeah, that's actually my play from this one, especially is Yeldon.
Fire-
Obviously, Hearns and Robinson are plays, but
Fire up Brian Walters.
fire up Brian Walters. Oh no, actually, I forgot my second play is Julius Thomas because he started getting targets last week. He really started getting targets last week in that game. I was surprised at how much they ended up going to him. I thought that Hearns and Robinson would get more. I like Brian Walters. Every time he does make a play, he makes a play,
Yeah,
but it's still like 3 a game.
that's it. Yeah.
You know,
He's a
so-
great football player. You're happy to see him on
Yeah.
your team or to see him make plays.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
So that's how I feel about that one. But yeah, I mean, Hearns and Robinson, they're obvious plays. That said, I feel like Yeldon is the play. The people might be.
I like Yeldon too.
Points per game is low.
Yep.
Didn't have a breakout game last week, but that's against the Titans D that we just discussed is great against the run.
And I read that they brought in Denard Robinson for goal line looks, but I'm not scared of that. I'm not scared of it.
No, I'm not scared
Yep.
of it.
Great. Can we just do a quick digression and say that Justice Winslow
I hear rub it in coming.
at the half? Are we at the half? Oh no, we got 2 minutes left in the second quarter. Justice Winslow leads the Heat with 17 minutes, 4 rebounds, 4 points, 2 assists. At a minimum salary, that's pretty good production.
Yeah, that is. Who leads them in points though? That's the question.
Chris Bosh with 9.
I
it's
skipped
well.
out of Bosh and I went with
Yeah,
Ray.
well, they're beating the Knicks by 20 points, and it's pretty even scoring all around. So.
Gotcha. So this will make it in the
Yeah.
podcast. We'll put it out. Our segments though.
Yeah.
As we move on,
Yeah.
late slate.
Are we onto the late?
There's only 2 games in the late slate because
Oh,
we have
good.
Thursday games doubled up. So there's Arizona Cardinals at San Francisco 49ers.
Ugh. Poor
49ers
49ers. They're 3
defense-
and 7. I can't believe that. They really need to lose out.
Yeah.
Those Niners. They need to just re up on the draft and commit to a rebuild.
Yeah, because what do we have right now? We have Torrey Smith, we have Quentin Patton, we have Sean Drawn.
Who's their tight end that scored points? Vance McDonald.
Yeah, Vance McDonald. Come
That
on.
would have been a great play in a late slate.
Yeah,
But
but still,
yeah, no.
Blaine Gabbert. Um,
You can't trust anybody on the 49ers.
that said, they work in small slates. They work because people don't trust them,
That's
and they're
true.
still going to produce.
Yeah.
Any team is going to produce 250 yards somewhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh boy, do you think the 49ers will put up 250 yards of total offense against the Cardinals?
I will take that bet any day of the
You'll
week. They
say
will put
the
up
over?
250 yards of total. They will put up 250 total yards over
And-
4 quarters of football.
And not counting return yards.
Yes, not counting return yards.
Yeah.
They will have at least 80 rushing yards and 150 passing yards in that game. That's the thing. Gabbert, even with Jacksonville,
The throw to McDonald looked good.
he's
Yeah.
not a bad quarterback. He's a Trent Dilfer type quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, like he knows he's old enough now that he knows he makes responsible choices. They're just not going to blow up. Would I take the over under on 350 total yards?
You take the under.
Maybe. Yeah. That said, the Cardinals, gosh, which weapon do you pick? I got slightly burned, not erased, but slightly burned on Duke Johnson getting the touchdown in that backfield. I like Palmer this week again. He's one of the more expensive quarterbacks. I think he's second or third most expensive, but with a big gap between him and Rodgers and Brady. Yeah, or sorry, no, Brady, Breeze. Rodgers is even lower. No, Rodgers isn't showing up because he's that Thursday slate. That's what the. It's really tough this week, guys. I apologize.
It's
This is
fine. It's a
complicated
Monday.
for me. It's a
Monday.
Monday. We're all still just waking up. So yeah, Carson Palmer at 7,100, averaging 24.2 fantasy points per game, against a semi. Like they're a good defense, but they're giving up 27th points to quarterbacks allowed. So I think that Palmer will take some advantage there. I'm not sure if Floyd might be back. If
Yeah, I
Floyd is
saw
back-
that. They're not sure. They're confident, but it's Monday.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If Floyd is back, I actually like putting him. In fact, I've done this already. I've stacked a lineup already for Sunday with Palmer, Floyd, and Brown,
Yeah.
and their defense.
I think recency bias is going to have a lot of people looking at Chris Johnson because of what Thomas Rawls did to the San Francisco defense. That's giving up 4.3 yards a carry, 126.2 yards per game.
True.
Chris Johnson has been getting 15-plus carries. Okay, the 18th of October, he got 14 against Pittsburgh, and then the next 4 weeks from that, 18, 30, 25, 18. So Chris Johnson, I think he's going to be...
4,600 because of the timeshare, so he's only
Yeah.
4,600 on.
I like the
TK.
work. I like that price for what the work he's been getting the past few weeks.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not gonna be too heavily invested. I'll probably look at him in later slates, just because I think he's gonna be really heavily owned, based on what the Thomas Rawls did to them. But is Thomas Rawls really good? Is he?
Sounds
or
like
is
he
he
might
just
be.
a product of that system that runs and runs and runs? Because every time I would see, or that game when I would switch into the red zone on commercial, it's Thomas Rawls handoff. But yeah, we're on to the Steelers and Seahawks. Did you have anything else to say about that game?
Just a side note, we didn't go into over under 45 with a 10.5 point Cardinals
Oh
favored.
wow! It says 11.5 here.
so-
Damn.
Yeah, I think you're doing Vegas and I'm doing overseas, so it's always a
okay.
little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely favored on Arizona. 31st against in points against for rushers. So 31st and 27th. So 49ers D actually kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, points given up speaking.
They're bad.
So now the other late slate games: Steelers at Seahawks. Steelers traveling west to visit Seattle in the what do you call that stadium? The 12th man. Over under 44.5.
They call it Century Link Field.
Oh, well, I call it the 12th man.
Yep.
And I live on the West Coast, James.
Well, that's what they call. That's what they call everybody in the stadium in the stands. They refer to them as the 12th man.
That's what Ben Roethlisberger calls the little
The
thing
house
in his
of
pocket.
the house of the 12th man.
The house of the 12th man. So what do you
That's
think?
what he calls his
Steelers-
pants.
That's what he calls his pants.
Oh, Big Ben.
Oh.
Poor guy. Not really.
Let me ask you this: do you
He
like
deserves it
D'Angelo
all.
Williams?
Sure. No.
No.
I
Recency
don't
bias,
know.
Or you don't like D'Angelo?
I just haven't. Again, I didn't look at this game too much when I was preparing. So I'm just going to take a quick look at the numbers like I do with every game. D'Angelo Williams is...
Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points.
That's an interesting line. I think there's going to be a lot of action on that.
Medium to lower 44.5 over under. So that's right in just on the lower side of the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, Martavis Bryant, his price has gone up significantly.
It sure has.
Which tells you that people believe that he is a legitimate threat. 5,600, and I think he's 6,800. Oh, wait. So actually, I apologize. It hasn't gone up ridiculously. I must have been looking FanDuel and thinking DraftKings. Antonio Brown is tied with Odell Beckham Jr. at 8,700, though he's beating Odell Beckham Jr. with 24.7 points per game versus 21.3. Seattle is the third best in points allowed to wide receivers, though.
It is true. And Legion of Boom gets a lot of flack for not being as good as they were, but they're still giving up only 207 passing yards a game to opposing quarterbacks. 88.5 rating.
And they are the first against rushing. So so that's a scary matchup from that standpoint.
Yeah, but at the same time, I
Does
still
that push
think
everybody off of that game.
I think it does, and that's why it makes the Steelers intriguing, because it is a good offense with Ben Roethlisberger there.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown is elite, and he can beat any. I'm confident he can beat any corner.
Coming off a bye, Steelers.
Yeah.
Banged up Ben Roethlisberger, getting a week to relax.
Yeah.
Maybe we see those fantasy points per game against numbers shift a little bit after this week. What do you think?
I think so. I think so. And I'm not scared of playing Steelers. Again, I like Odell Beckham so much that I'd play him over Antonio Brown. He's 9,100. Beckham's 91. Brown is 9,000 even. So, but I could see if you wanted to go two big receivers and you had Hopkins and Beckham, instead going Beckham and Brown in a GPP and trying to take advantage of the low ownership percentages on Brown while still having Odell Beckham and his upside.
I will tell you the one gap in the Seahawks defense is against tight ends. They are 30th.
Yes.
That might be a really fun one actually for tournament play to do the whole. I wonder if that would be possible. Ben, Bryant, and Brown, and Miller. Or is that too much?
No, I think you could. I mean,
and Beckham, and then fill it in with scrubs?
you could. Heath Miller's 5,300 on FanDuel, which is towards the low end, I believe. Yeah, it is. So
yeah, I mean he's 3,100. So I've
Yeah.
that. But then you're spreading yourself among three receivers. But could Ben go off for 5 touchdowns? I love that I'm speculating all this against the first and third best defense on a lot of those things, except for tight ends. But I like the Steelers.
Me too.
I'm scared of them. If there's one team that I had to face as a football team right now that would scare me, it's the Steelers. It should be the Patriots, but it's the Steelers.
And I bet you that's the team that the Patriots don't want to face.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh defense has holes. They're giving up 278 passing yards a game, 94 rating to opposing quarterbacks, 3.8 yards per carry, 93 on the ground. If our narrative is true and Pittsburgh is able to score, the Seahawks are going to have to throw. And I used Russell Wilson on a late slate, and I think that's probably where he is best used.
Who does
But
he have besides Tyler Lockett?
Jimmy Graham, and something's wrong with Jimmy Graham. But I like Russell Wilson in later slates or as a play that not many people are going to be on. He hasn't been good rushing for touchdowns this year. I don't think he has one.
Well, the Steelers are good
Yeah.
against the rush, which will be interesting
Yeah.
because I feel like Rawls is the new Sharkhandrick West, where he
Yeah.
was super owned even in full week tournaments. Rawls is 4,500 on DraftKings. So after scoring 43.5 points last week, he's going to be the guy that everybody plugs in this week that's
Yeah.
really heavily owned. That said, he might be a good play still because maybe he is the truth. By contrast, the Steelers are 30th in points given up to wide receivers, but that's why I asked too if you knew offhand. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. All I can think of is Tyler Lockett, who had a breakout game this last week. But who else would?
Doug Baldwin.
Baldwin.
But I like Russell Wilson. I'm going to say that.
3,800 is a question.
I'll look. I'm going to have a look at Russell Wilson in late slates, especially. And yeah, at that price with the field in a bigger tournament that covers all of Sunday, I still think Russell Wilson could be sneaky. He's coming off. Excuse me. He's coming off of his best game in terms of FanDuel points this last week when he scored 25.4. He's got to get in the end zone on his feet one of these games, and it's going to happen before the end of the regular season. So why not bet on this week? And I need to go at 6, so we got to move on.
Oh yeah, we already did. We're already talking about the Patriots Broncos. Where have you been?
That'll be oh boy.
No over under posted yet. Probably because they're trying to
No.
figure out how many points the Patriots put up tonight. Do you have an over under on your site?
No, I don't. It's probably pending tonight's result.
Yeah,
So,
but I'll bet you it might come out with the highest, but it might not because Brock Osweiler has engineered two touchdown games, but we don't know. So it might be low. I mean, New England's favored by 5.5. That's
tonight.
what I got right now against the Broncos next week.
Oh, okay, I see.
So if you factor that
Denver.
in, what Broncos have been producing, it's probably still a 46 or 47 line at the lowest.
Yeah.
Maybe a 48 or 49. Could the Broncos defense pop in there though? I mean, they held the Bears to 15 points. We've had other weeks where they've held
Packers,
teams really low.
yeah.
Pretty much beat the Packers. Could that be the wild card here? Do you want to go heavy on your Patriots? Are they overowned? Are they overpriced? Amendola went up to 4,700 on DraftKings. They have to price him before tonight's performance. So he could put in an Edelman-esque performance tonight, and he'd still be 4,700 for the next week.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then Gronk. I'm going to stay away from Gronk. I'm going to stay away from this game. I'm looking at Broncos more than I'm looking at Patriots, even though I think the Patriots can win this game. I don't have a clear idea of where the points are going to come from.
Mm-hmm. Demaryius Thomas, 7,400.
The Patriots can afford to lose this game and still wrap up the number 1 seed.
Gronk is 7,900, which is cheaper than we've seen him in past weeks. I think he was 8,100 this week.
Especially if they win tonight. What is their schedule like for the rest of the season? Denver, Philly, Houston, Tennessee, New York, Miami.
Hillman
Win. Maybe you lose that Jets game.
Hillman's 4,000, and he got the
Yeah.
majority of the carries this week again.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Didn't get a touchdown. Broke 100 yards though, so that's kind of a risky point there, actually.
I like Demaryius Thomas. I know that he had 3 for 59 and a touchdown against the Bears. It wasn't amazing, but he's going to get those looks.
I like your call on the Broncos. I think it might be something that I save for maybe, since there's only 2 games in the late slate, maybe I do a full late slate with that Sunday night and play the Broncos in some tournaments that way.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid to jump all the way in on them in a full Sunday. But this could be a tricky game. I'm not as confident on the Patriots in this game.
If the Patriots lose tonight, I'm going to like them more.
Yeah,
If they win tonight, I'm going to like them less.
it's a very interesting and a way that I agree with, to put it.
Yeah.
So, so then Monday Night Special, we go on to the
Oh boy, no rowdy friends at
Baltimore
this matchup. It's
Baltimore Ravens at Cleveland Browns, and this is the one I've been waiting for. I have
think they
something
sell out.
else.
Think they sell out this game? I think there's empty seats.
Well, it's at Cleveland on a
Yeah.
Monday night,
I think
so I think that they sell out just because Cleveland fans.
they want to do something. They're happy. They have a televised game.
Well, and they've got a huge chance. They're favored 2.5 points favored because we're dealing with Matt Schaub and Javorius Allen, thanks to the injuries that happened this week to Justin Forsett and Joe Flacco. That said, and I think they've committed to Manziel at quarterback, though I wasn't on Twitter enough today. I saw somebody talking some crap about his rehab, so I don't know if he had a relapse or something. But Browns coming off a bye at home against the Ravens, and I love Javorius Allen for the Ravens in this game.
You love Javorius Allen. So do I. 6,300 against that terrible Cleveland defense. Javorius Allen is the one now. That's what it said. He's the leader of the backfield. He's my play.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I like him is, as I said earlier, backup quarterback with backup running back means that they've been taking reps together all year long.
Mm-hmm.
While Forsett and Joe Flacco were diddling on the main starters. So I think they'll have a good rapport, which means I think he gets some receptions out of the backfield and gets some yards on receptions, as well as, like, don't you kind of want to just ground and pound it against Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
Still
do.
got to like Barnage too, though.
I do. I like Barnage. And I think if you want a piece of Monday night, Justin Tucker's a kicker. But
There you
but
go.
I like Justin Barnage is my piece of Monday. Or Justin Barnage. Gary Barnage is my piece of Monday night that I like the most.
Yeah,
And
Baltimore's
along with
forward-
Javorius Allen.
Yeah. Travis Benjamin's an interesting play to look at. I'm
Sure.
just still scared because I feel like the quarterbacks there have not gotten the ball out consistently. But Baltimore, 29th ranked in points against by receivers. So
Yeah. So that they
pretty simple game.
Benjamin is worth a look too. There's some nice cheap pieces.
Yeah.
Although Travis Benjamin is still over 6, I believe on.
Oh, he should be because
No, he's 59. He's 59.
Yeah, so that makes him attractive, actually.
It really does. So, in fact, I'm switching Barnage to Benjamin, and I'm going just
doing
a
it right
touch cheaper. No, I'm looking at a single entry GPP.
This is happening live, folks.
And then you got to go Delaney Walker. Here's my single entry GPP lineups, because the one I haven't built the one against you yet. This is FanDuel. Eli Manning, 77. Doug Martin, 75. Javorius Allen, 63. Odell Beckham, 91. Allen Robinson, 79. Travis Benjamin, 59. Delaney Walker, 61. Connor Barth for 48. And Kansas City Chiefs for 45. I have $200 left over. I have 2 pieces of Monday night. And then the rest are all 1 p.m. games. Early games, not 1 p.m. Pacific. 1 p.m. Eastern.
Gotcha. So my FanDuel Fool Duel Turkey Challenge lineup is, I went with a full stack here. I had some luck with the strategy. Not just one quarterback, one wide receiver, but I have Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Brandon Cooks. Oh, and that's all I did from that game. So only 3 from that game. I thought that I had a 4th. I have a 4th in my DraftKings. But I think that's going to be a high-scoring game, and that's also why I do have DeAndre Hopkins as well. New Orleans at Houston. So that's a major chunk of that. And then the other highest-scoring team of the week I see is the Packers, so I plugged in Cobb and Richard Rodgers because the Bears are somewhat poor against the tight end. And I think Cobb is somebody that's going to be avoided in a lot of lineups because of his production last week. Yes, he got a touchdown, but the experts are going to say 2 receptions. That's not very good. And I think that's how they beat the Bears, is by going back to Cobb. Javorius Allen, who I love as a backup. I love him extra more because Schaub is getting the start, and Schaub has gotten his reps all year long with Javorius Allen on the second team. So I think that gives him a little bit of reception help. Buccaneers defense against Indianapolis. Hasselbeck, older quarterback, fired up Buccaneers team. I think they're going to do as much as they can. Valor Margulis. And then Travis Coons. I took a little slice of Monday night because I also needed to save some money so I could plug. I had to fit Allen in on that already expensive lineup. Coons is at the cheapest kicker available. He's one of the 6 or 7 listed at 4,500. And I think, going against Baltimore at home, extra day of rest after a bye week, that's plenty of reasons to play a kicker, as if you needed more.
Yep.
So now DraftKings Fool Duel Turkey Challenge. Almost exactly the same lineup. So I won't even give the reasons for most of it, but I got Breeze, Javorius Allen, Mark Ingram, Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins, Richard Rodgers, Buccaneers defense, and then in the flex, I'm going double tight end flex, so I can really stack on that New Orleans game with Benjamin Watson at 4,000. 4,000. He got a poached touchdown by Humananui against Washington in what should have been in what was their big giant blowout game that they got blown out in. But he's been getting he's been getting 5 targets ever since week 5, with 10 and 12 a couple weeks in there. So I like him to get targets. I think that's going to be a blowout on both sides. So that's who I got in DraftKings Fool Duel Turkey Day Challenge.
Here's my Fool Duel Turkey Day. I went Eli, Javorius Allen, Doug Martin, Odell Beckham, Allen Robinson, Nate Washington.
Oh, he stole my guy. What was your reasoning on Nate Washington? What'd you think?
Shootout against New Orleans.
Okay. And you couldn't afford Hopkins with that Beckham in there, right?
No. Because I like Allen Robinson. I wanted another high-price guy.
Oh, is he? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Delaney Walker, Deshaun Jackson in the flex. Chiefs team.
You did it.
I did.
You went with a Washington guy in the flex.
I did. So I reserve the right to change any players.
Of course, with injuries too, and late in the week things, you never know what'll happen. So,
yeah.
But well, hey, there you go. That's the Fool Duel podcast for week 12.
Hooray, we did it!
Give some thanks.
That's
follow
right.
us on Twitter at Fool Duel.
At Fool Duel, and then we tag each other a bunch. I am at GoJPG.
I am at Watch the Breaks. Take James's advice, not mine.
Well, no, you're the one who's been winning these past few weeks, so take both of our advice with a big old grain of salt, because we could easily be horribly wrong.
That chunky sea salt that you get, like
it's
one of those
stuff.
grains. Not this iodized fine grain stuff.
No, yeah. Go to the big salt block at Whole Foods and chip off your own salt.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they don't have that at Whole Foods. They should.
Yeah, let's start our own Whole Foods and call it chip off the old salt block.
Yeah, or Salties.
All right. For the Fool Duel podcast, this is
This is James Gale. Thanks for listening, folks.